Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. For 10% off your first purchase, go to squarespace.com/mattday and use the code mattday at checkout. So over the last couple of months, I've been using the Lumix S5II. This has been my hybrid camera of choice. It's my sort of Swiss Army knife of cameras. It's the one camera that does a number of different things for me. Hybrid cameras, something that does both photo and video, that's only becoming more and more popular as more photographers get into shooting video, whether that be for clients or for creating their own videos for social media, YouTube channels, and so on. And pretty much every camera brand these days is making great hybrid cameras. Your options are endless with all of the different cameras that are coming out, the capabilities and how good these cameras are getting. It's only getting better. But I think that for the price, the Lumix S5II, this might be the best value option that's out there today in the world of hybrid cameras. Not to say this is the best hybrid camera out there or anything like that. I think stuff like that doesn't really exist. We all have our own needs and preferences. I just think that for the price, this camera would make a lot of sense for a lot of people. And since we talk about cameras here on this channel, and I like to share what cameras I'm using and why, I figured I would share what made me go with the S5II for sort of my work camera. First off, let's talk about photo, which this camera doesn't see a ton of photo use, I'll be honest. It's basically there if I need it. I have the Leica M11 and the Leica M6. These are my two main just everyday photo cameras, the kind of stuff I use for my own work, personal projects. I don't book weddings or portraits or corporate kind of stuff like I used to, but here on occasion when someone calls and they need a favor, they need some photos, having a system like this is more than enough for my needs at this point. Resolution of 24 megapixels, that's plenty for most uses. Autofocus is great, which is a big factor in video, and we'll come back to that here in a little bit. Battery life is good, ergonomics, the way the camera feels, the EVF, it's just good. It's great. It's more than enough for my needs. But again, this isn't really a photo-centric camera for me. This is really catered more towards video for my uses. Also, outside of just photo and video needs, this camera also handles all of my film scanning or film digitizing if you want to get into the semantics of it. Basically being able to take one of the film photos that I shot and turn it into a digital file to share in these videos, upload online, make prints from digitally, that sort of thing. For the past few years, I'd been scanning all of my film with the Lumix S1R, so I bought that camera specifically just for film scanning. I bought it, I attached it to my negative supply stand, and it sat there for about 3 years. And it's great. It has a high resolution, which was great for film scanning when I needed it. However, once I got the S5II, I went ahead and sold that camera. The Sigma 70mm macro lens that I use for this, obviously L mount, it works great on the S5II as well. And the S5II doesn't have as high of a resolution as the S1R. It has 24 megapixels as opposed to between like 45 and 50, I think, on the S1R. However, with the S5II, you have a high resolution mode where the camera will actually shoot a number of photos and stitch them together, giving you a 96 megapixel file. It does take an extra few seconds to do this, and I don't do that for scanning all of my film, but if there's ever something that I want to get the most out of, if I want to scan it to a really high size for a big print, just being able to have that option is really great. That features in a lot of different cameras these days. I imagine a lot of landscape photographers really appreciate that. But the one thing that I use this camera the most for is shooting video. So all of my YouTube videos for the last couple of months have been shot with the S5II. Obviously not today because I only have one of these, so I'm using my iPhone 15 Pro Max to shoot this entire video. That way I could actually show the camera and talk a little bit about it in hand, which is still kind of crazy that, phones are able to do this, but anyway. Shooting video with this camera is just great. The way Panasonic not only gives you a ton of options, which we'll get into, but the way everything is laid out, the way all of your information is on the LCD, it's just a really good experience using this for video. But the autofocus in video specifically, that's why I finally pulled the trigger on the S5II, because I actually bought the original S5 a few years ago. I don't think I ever mentioned it on the channel. I might have filmed a couple of videos with it, but it didn't last long because the face recognition, the autofocus in video, it just wasn't up to par yet. They've since updated that with the S5II. They got the whole phase detect autofocus system as opposed to contrast based, which is just much faster. There's like thousands of videos on YouTube of people talking all about this, especially when this camera first came out, but it's usable. It's usable and reliable, and that's what made me finally buy it, because the original S5, if it wasn't for the autofocus, I would have kept shooting with it. The color, the ergonomics, the lens choices from Lumix themselves, there's just a lot of things I really like about shooting video when it comes to these cameras. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the value of this camera. The S5II standard MSRP is $19.99 US dollars, so just under $2,000. That's what it retails for. During a holiday sale in like early November, I was able to get this camera with the 50mm f1.8 S lens, which we'll talk about these as well in a minute. All of that brand new for $17.49, so less than the actual retail of the camera with a 50 f1.8. As great as the lens is, all of that aside, just in the camera alone, full frame sensor, reliable autofocus, 422 10-bit video, 6K open gate, 1080p 180 frames per second, amazing vlog footage to grade, internal fans, amazing stabilization. It's just crazy what you get in this camera for that price. The way the camera is laid out, despite all of the buttons and dials that are on the camera, everything is laid out really thoughtfully, and most of the time, you really don't have to dig into the menus unless you're looking for a special feature. It's insanely customizable. You can also use shutter angle when shooting video, which is great. Not even all of the cinema cameras these days do shutter angle. Just makes it nice that you don't have to do the whole doubling your shutter. It just does it for you when you set it to 180 degrees. Also turning on synchro scan. This is a feature that basically lets you really dial in, like fine tuning your shutter, just so you don't get any kind of flickers in certain kind of lighting conditions. I have it turned on all of the time, mostly just because the one thing that kind of bugs me about the camera is this little thumb dial. It's easy to kind of accidentally bump this, and this is what controls my shutter. So typically, if I do bump it by accident, it's only, 1 or 2 degrees off as opposed to jumping, drastically. But that thumb wheel aside, the way the camera feels in the hand, it's lightweight, but it still feels sturdy. I don't feel like I need a grip on here on top of the camera because the grip itself is really, really comfortable to use. You've obviously got your flip screen, which is helpful for people like me who film themselves, USB-C, full-size HDMI, your mic input, your headphone jack, solid battery life as well, which granted in my case, usually the camera is here while I'm filming and I often just have it plugged in with USB-C so I don't have to worry about it. However, the times I have gone out being able to shoot with just one battery, it has worked great. Again, just the reliability of USB-C for charging on the go, that is nice. There is one little gripe though that I just have to get in. It doesn't come with a battery charger. Most cameras these days don't come with battery chargers. They include the cable, so you can charge the battery while it's in the camera, but what if I bought an extra battery and I wanted to charge both? I have to charge them both when they're in the camera, one at a time. I could buy a battery charger, of course, but why not just throw that in the box and let me pay the $30 or $40, whatever it is? Just add that onto the price. It's an amazing value camera, really, but just include the charger. I'll pay for it at the time, whatever. But some of my favorite things about the camera for video, number one, vlog. I just love the way the footage looks. It's really easy to grade and work with, tons and tons of dynamic range. Just has a really good look to it. 6K open gate, being able to use the entire sensor and not being cropped to the 16:9. This is something I haven't really used yet, although I could see myself using it in certain scenarios for people who like to use, footage for not only YouTube, but also for making Instagram reels or TikToks, that kind of stuff. It's not really my thing, but I could see myself actually doing more of that by, using this feature, not dealing with such a, tight squeezed in frame. But 6K open gate, again, on a camera at this price, it's just crazy. And the lenses are great. I've used the S Pro lenses for years. I used to use them all the time for weddings when I was using the Leica SL2, which is also in the L mount. The 24-70 f2.8 S Pro, I don't have that lens anymore, but it's amazing. Also the 50mm f1.4 S Pro lens. All of the S Pro lenses, this here is the 16-35 f4. It's primarily what I use for filming these videos. They all have this focus clutch, all of the S Pro lenses. You just pull back on the focus ring and now you have a nice manual focus experience. It's still focused by wire, but you have your distance on the lens. It knows exactly where that is. It's just really, really enjoyable to use, especially for video in some cases where I just want to be able to manually pull focus. You can actually control the degrees of rotation on the lens itself, so you can really fine tune it to get the exact manual focus that you want, which is just super, super handy, again, especially for video. But the S Pro lenses, they're all great. They all have that feature, which is nice. The S lenses, on the other hand, it is the more budget-friendly option, but these are anything but budget lenses. They have a number of different focal lengths to choose from in this lineup. Again, this is the 50mm, but they have other focal lengths that are all in the exact same size. They use the same housing that this lens is in, so you can have an entire lineup and the size and the weight of your kit doesn't really change. It can be handy if you're on a gimbal and you don't have to, rebalance everything, or if you want to use the same filter set across all of the same lenses. They all have a 67mm filter thread. They also just came out with a 100mm f2.8 macro in this same lineup, which is crazy. Looks amazing, very little focus breathing. That's a lens I will probably pick up for scanning my film, but I could also see myself using it, getting close-up detail stuff for the videos here that I do on different cameras, stuff like that. I've usually been a 1 or 2 lens kind of guy when it comes to a setup like this, but the S series, as affordable as they are and as good as they are, this is like one of the first times where I could see myself really investing in a whole lineup because they are that good and that affordable. Speaking of affordable, I'm going to take a minute to pay some bills and let you know about today's sponsor, Squarespace, and how you can save some money using the links and codes down below. When I first created mattdayphoto.com 10 years ago, I did it with Squarespace. This was long before they ever decided to sponsor my channel, but I chose Squarespace because it was just a no-brainer. They had everything I needed in one place, and all these years later, they're still continuing to build and add new features to their service, all while keeping it extremely easy to use while you do it yourself. Drag and drop customization, tons of different templates to choose from, along with 24/7 award-winning customer service that are always there when you need them. You can share your work there, have a place where people can contact you or even schedule appointments. You can even set up your own online store. Since I launched mattdayphoto.com, I've sold my own zines, photo books, prints, and merch all through my own website. No need to use a third-party service. And they also have tons of different plugins from third parties to keep everything in one place. Keeping track of your inventory, shipping fulfillment, it's all a breeze with their built-in tools. It's never been easier to build your own website, and you can start a free trial by going to squarespace.com/mattday. Use the promo code MattDay at checkout for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. The S5II has been out for a little while now, and it seems to only be getting more and more popular, and understandably so. For the price that you can often find it when it's on sale, again, like I did, $17.49 camera and 50mm lens, it's just a crazy good value. If you're looking for a hybrid system and you don't want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on something just for the body, I would say this could probably do it for most people's needs. If video is your main focus, there is also the S5IIX, which is really their video-centric version of this camera. It's all blacked out. Right out of the gate, it comes with some extra codecs and extra features for video. However, you can also just pay for those upgrades with your original S5II if you decide to do that down the road. But for 2024, this is my hybrid workhorse. This is the camera that's pulling triple duty for me: photo, video, and scanning film. It's doing it all. So if you have any questions about the S5II, I'll try to answer as much as I can in the comments down below, but I could also just send you some links to other YouTubers who have great videos all about the S5II. That was a big resource for me from learning from other people and, you know, whether or not this camera would be for me. So I'll also put some links to some of those videos in the description as well. Check those videos out. They were helpful for me, so they might be for you. But that's it for this video. So thank you all for watching. I love you guys very much. I'll see you guys soon.